Alright, we got our timing belt on, we got our starter on, we got the torque converter bolts hooked up. Timing marks are lined up. The top one is lined up with the little notch in the valve cover right there. And the bottom dot on the crankshaft is lined up with that notch I put in the center of that hole there in the bottom. Okay, so we're good. I've spun it over a couple of times to make sure everything lines back up. Okay, rule of thumb is never reuse a timing belt. I'm reusing this one because it doesn't have but just an hour or two's use on it, so I know it's still new. Timing chain tensioners on these Audis, this is the kit you want, with the little hydraulic piston that just pushes up on the bottom of this. There's another one that has a little link arm with two little ball sockets like you would snap onto the side of a carburetor, and it goes from here to here. Okay, that's the old style. Throw that piece of shit in the garbage. Okay, if this motor ever backfires, or if you bump it in reverse while you're rolling forward in reverse, it'll roll the motor backwards over. It'll pull slop into this chain just like that, or this belt, and it'll jump. Okay, or it'll shear teeth off. This roller here and this roller here, absolutely make sure they are perfectly smooth like a skateboard wheel. Okay, these have bearings like skateboard wheels, but they're big. You can see how big that bearing is. This one's a little one, but I mean, trust me when I tell you this, if there's any grit, any dirt, any kind of sloppiness, or you can spin that thing and it spins like it'll spin forever, get rid of it. This is a $200 timing belt set. You get a belt, this and this, 200 bucks, okay? You'll not only just tear this up, this head costs $600 rebuilt. Possibly take out a piston, okay? This is what happens when you do stuff like that. Right there. Valves are kissing. It was 3 teeth advanced. It was hitting as they were closing. And that's the damage you get. What it does is every time it hits, it tweaks it just a little bit. You know, just tweak, 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 tweak. You tweak that valve enough, it's just going to snap off. It drove it through the top of that piston like a nail. I mean, you can see it busted the stem off. That's the top of the connecting rod you see there, by the way. This motor's still good. I mean, it didn't do any cylinder damage. One piston, put this motor back together. That ain't the motor. Oh, the motor laying on the floor there in front of the car that I haven't moved out of my way yet is the motor I showed you in the video of showing you the piston slop. That motor's never been apart. That motor's just like I pulled it out of the car. I mean, I literally unplugged everything, put his intake back on, and put his 4 spark plugs back in, and his busted turbo and exhaust manifold on. But I mean, it's just like I took it out of the car. I unplugged the oil cooler, left all the brackets on it, took my timing belt kit off, and my water pump. This is the belt. I bought a brand new belt for this, and that timing belt kit was 200 bucks, and ran it on this motor for the length of time you've seen it in the video. Like I said, it doesn't have an hour's worth of use on it. Okay, he claims that motor's a 98 on up, or 98 on up. Okay, it's not. This is a 98 on up head, which is I think ATW or an ATE, I think. I forgot the numbers. This is 2,000 miles. See the big EGR valve right here? That's 2,000 and up. Okay. This is a set of injectors. The ones on the left are 98 and 99, which are just like a Ford Bosch. These are just a Bosch injector. These are 2000 and up models. I actually have a supply of these injectors. Those are the injectors right there. Got a whole bag full of them right here. These injectors from Audi are $160 a piece, I forgot. It's god-awful, ridiculous expensive. I can buy these things from an injector store out in Arizona somewhere. I think I got 8 of them for $160. And this is what I use them for. These things are notorious for plugging up. People buying bad gas, they carbon up on the tips. If you see any carbon built up, if you can't see that shiny thing, they're bad, okay? You can send them in and get them cleaned, but by the time you send them in to get them cleaned, it is cheaper just to buy these, okay? These are the injectors. These are, I forgot how many pound injectors. These things work in Mustangs, they work in Fords, they work in 4.6s, 10-cylinder Fords, BMWs. I mean, I honestly could tell you there's 100 different cars these Bosch injectors fit. Okay? It's just a standard stock injector. Okay? A factory 4.6 in a Mustang, Ford truck, Ford van, the V10s, all use this same injector. Now, if you buy the, what are they, the 50-pound injectors or whatever they call them, those will be bigger pintles on the end, which will be these things here. And then what you do is you program your computer to spray. That's how you get your fuel delivery. Okay, anyways, and actually, these things here, yeah, 302, 5.6, BMW, like I said, there's 100 different cars these things fit. And these are actually, this was my biggest downfall working at the car dealerships. I would put in 60 book hours or 40 book hours and work 60 clock hours because I cannot stand working on greasy, slimy parts. I can't put greasy parts back on the car. It's just a fetish, I guess I have. I literally have to spend hours cleaning every part, okay? Just like this engine, okay? This engine has been scrubbed, pressure washed, scrubbed again, and painted. Everything under this hood has been pressure washed twice. You want to tape up some of your more important electrical connections, but you know, for the most part, you can pressure. I mean, look at everything is just clean, other than that dusty starter I put on there, because the one that came off this engine was like filled with oil. But there you go. Alright, timing cover's on, bottom pulley's on, motor mounts are on. A couple of things. You see the little blue tube laying right there on the fender? It's Loctite. The flywheel bolts, put Loctite on them. Torque converter bolts, put Loctite on them. Any bolt under that cover, under the cover, put Loctite on them. And then crankshaft, put Loctite on those. You don't have to put that permanent stuff, just put some soft Loctite on them. Couple of reasons. Anybody ever heard a flywheel come loose? Sounds like you got a rod knocking. I don't know how many people I've seen pull motors out just to find out the torque converter was loose, when all you had to do was slide the transmission back, you know, 6 inches and tighten them back up, or replace the flywheel. That thing comes off, it hits the radiator. It's literally this far from the radiator when the whole thing's assembled. It's a nightmare to change the belts on this thing. You actually have to strip it down to this far, just like you see it, to do a timing belt or a water pump job on this car. Any bolt come loose under that cover, falls down, gets tangled up on the timing belt, they're shot $1,500. You know, just think while you're putting the car together. What if, you know, what if You know, bolts that are easy to get to, you know, if you don't put Loctite on them, well, you just have to tighten them later. My other rule of thumb is never start a bolt that you don't immediately tighten. Do you know what I mean by that? Don't put those 4 crankshaft bolts in and then, you know, just finger tighten them and then come back later, because you're going to forget about them. And then you're going to tear the car apart, damn tighten them. If you stick the bolt in, have the wrench or the Allen Torx or whatever to tighten it up. Okay? That's just my rule of thumb. I never stick a bolt in a hole that I'm not ready to tighten up. With the exception of, like you see this little stud sticking up here with that little 10 millimeter sitting up there. Obviously, you know, that's got to come off to put the intake on, or, you know, just big external stuff is not so much critical. You know, you can obviously go around later and, well, let me see if I've snugged everything up, like the transmission or stuff like that. If you put the bolt in the hole, tighten it up. It's either tighten it up or just start at one thread so it sticks out this far and it's just so obnoxiously obvious that if you miss it, you're just an idiot. You know, that's just the easiest way to explain it, you know. That's all I can say. You know, that's just my advice. Everybody does everything a little differently. Everybody works on cars a little differently. I generally will take photographs. You know, if I've never done one of these before, I will take photographs in steps. So I know where brackets go and wire ties go and zip ties go and little plugs, or, you know, if there's 10 bolts in that bracket there and there's only 4 bolts in it, I'll take a picture of it so I know where the bolts go. It just makes life easier. Like I said before, I used to have one of them Kodak cameras when I worked at the Chevy dealership and the Ford dealership. You know, you get some of these, you know, expensive cars like Corvettes and Z71 SS big blocks, or you know, back then the big thing was that SS 454 that got 4.5 miles to the gallon. You know, you get some of these fanatics that bring their car in to get worked on. They know where everything goes. And I'm telling you, I had a guy bring an SS Impala in one time. I put a long block in it, and I'm telling you, I had the wiring snapped, the wiring loom across the top of the engine snapped in the wrong place, and the guy just like the freak. You know, I mean, it took 30 seconds to fix, but I'm just telling you, this is how these guys are. I mean, cars like this, you have to line the engine bay with thick cardboard or blankets, so you do not rub those motor mounts against anything. You don't scratch the paint. I don't care if that car's got 80,000 miles on it. These guys are just fanatics, you know, when they go and build these cars, and, you know, and they bring them to the dealerships because they just can't do stuff like that. So, you know, but they know if you scratch something or you put a bolt in the wrong place, you know, that's just, you know, the experiences I've had over the years. All right, man, this is it for today. I got a couple hours of work on this today. I got quite a bit done. I'll have the intake, breather pipes and stuff on tomorrow. I got to get these tranny lines bolted to the bottom of the transmission with a special bracket. I got to hunt my new water pump up, get this bracket on, the power steering and the idler and the fan cooling bracket and all that stuff on. I'll get that on tomorrow. Intake on tomorrow. Hopefully I might have this thing started this weekend. I will start it with the front of this car tore apart. I will stick a water hose in the, you know, the top radiator hose and just let the water puke out on the ground and fire it up just to make sure everything's okay. You know, I don't have to run it but just a minute or two to know if there's anything wrong. Well, there you go.